everyone. Thank you for coming out in this steamy evening of May to hear Nicolei and learn a little bit about her wonderful exhibition tonight. Michelle Carlson, the new acting director of the Lansingburgh Gallery and Education Center. So we appreciate you coming. Katrina is going to start interviewing basically Nicolei and talking about her show. And then when we're done with our nice conversation, we have an award to present to Nicolei tonight. So, Nicolei. Katrina Daniels, our exhibitions coordinator, director.
Thank you. So I'd like to welcome Nicolei into our space. So we'll have a brief artist talk with the artist, and we'll also have, opportunities for people to ask questions after the talk, or take an opportunity to just to speak with Nicolei directly and learn more about her work. And we are recording. Nicolei, could you actually first maybe speak to the title of this exhibit and maybe give our guests a little bit of a context for this show?
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me? I titled my solo show The Colonial Dream. My name is Nicolei Gupit, and introduction to this show. This is a body of work that I've been working on for just a short duration of time, just a couple months. But they're actually all new works, setting aside the video that I made last year. But all of the paintings, installations, and sculptures are all new, and they're unique to this space. I wanted to make a body of work that speaks to the concept that I've been thinking about for a long time, the colonial dream being the way that I think about how to imagine better futures for people who are affected by things like climate change and kind of global issues that are happening today.
Thank you. And Nicolei, you spoke or touched on this briefly, but could you tell us a little bit about, in sort of a general sense, about what inspires your work?
Yeah, great. It's such a really big question, but really what I think inspires my work primarily is my experience growing up in LA. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and growing up, my family and I relied on the public transport. So we took buses and subways in LA on the regular basis. And by taking the bus, I was able to observe and experience what it meant to be a low-income person of color riding the bus in a very multicultural city. And I think, I've been able to travel quite a lot, not only here in Michigan, but I went to school in Massachusetts. But even, wherever I go, whether it's here in the US or in Asia, where I was teaching abroad for 5 years, I always draw back to the years that I had spent growing up in LA, where I still think about what it means to be American, but also what does it mean to be Filipino American today.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting in a community that we live here in Michigan, where driving is such sort of an important part of our lives. I think there's so much sort of humanity, though, in public transportation. And personally, I found that I learned so much more about my neighborhood and the place that I live when I'm walking, biking, or taking a bus than I do when I'm in a car. It's so much more isolating. So it was just interesting to hear you talk about that and thinking about how that experience of you kind of engaging with your environment that way is explored, or it may have entered into your work. Mm-hmm. So as everyone can see in this exhibition, we have a video and we have mixed media installation. So this question's a little bit broad, but Nicolei, could you speak to what media you prefer, or maybe what draws you to that media? Maybe for that particular, like if you are trying to think about how to express a particular concept, maybe, like one of how you choose your media.
Yeah, another big question. Okay, more recently, I have been really drawn to raw materials, but also, so like for example, banana leaves, Kogan grass, which is an invasive plant species that comes from the Philippines. But I also am really drawn to kind of materials that refer to waste, for example, plastic and paper, and how waste material kind of speaks to the kind of global capitalism and impacts that are happening throughout the world. And so, in the mixed media installations that Katrina is pointing to, I am particularly interested in using resin, which is a type of plastic, to then embed objects of nostalgia, foods and kind of objects, but also characters like Jollibee here, which kind of speak to my upbringing, being a Filipino American growing up in America. And then I guess to go back to the question of what media I'm so drawn to is I really am drawn to everything. And so I have a hard time picking one particular medium, but I'm really excited about these new paintings that I've been making for the past few months, and also sound. If you see my installation that's at the Broad Art Museum currently, I'm really drawn to voice, the personal voice of my family members, but also the voice of my interviewees who are in the audio of this video that's here as well.
So Nicolei, when you referenced the paintings and this idea of voice, so when we were installing, Nicolei was explaining to me a little bit more about these paintings and sort of like the layers, the actual physical, and conceptual layers in them. Could you speak a little bit about the works that our guests are seeing on the walls right now?
Yeah, of course. All of the paintings have the first shared title, which is Play the Hand We're Dealt. When I was creating this body of work, I was thinking about lottery scratchers. Lottery scratchers have been kind of a recurring motif in my work because growing up, my mom bought a lot of scratchers. Like she kind of relied on them to kind of give her hope. So I wanted to use the aesthetic of a lottery scratcher to then kind of excavate my family's history. And so I kind of treat the painting as a kind of a two-dimensional surface that you can kind of dig through the scratcher, where the scratched material that I'm creating is actually silver leaf. It's a material that you can find it in gold or silver, and I think also bronze, but I apply it as almost basically one of the very last layers. But underneath, I'm trying to uncover photographs of both my family's archive and also a historical archive that speaks to U.S. colonization in the Philippines. So I guess the last note I'll share, the answer is getting long, is that these photographs of my family are from photos and documents that my grandmother and my grandfather kept, who are no longer with my family. But they also speak to that kind of colonial impacts that affect my family to this day. For example, my grandfather was a Philippine soldier who fought on the U.S. side during World War II, And then there are also images of my grandmother, who was the first person to step foot in the U.S. From my family.
Thank you. I don't know about anyone else, but I have like 40 different things that I want to know more about. But when you were speaking to this idea of the lottery tickets and the scratching off, it made me think about this idea of immigration and coming to America as this hope that you might be able to get a better life. And sometimes that's true and sometimes that's not. Like sometimes it's a very difficult experience. Just through the policies and transitioning to new cultures and whatnot. And I was wondering if there is any sort of correlation, or if you're kind of thinking about that at all.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's yeah, and thank you so much for that question, because it actually reminds me of another aspect of the title of the show, which is the Colonial Dream. I think of the Colonial Dream as the antithesis, or the complete contrast of the American dream, where the American dream, I think, is kind of like almost like a false hope that is sold to immigrants, but also everyday Americans, where the American dream proposes that we can succeed and have a form of success by working hard. But that, I believe that that's not true for all of us, and probably for most of us. And so when I think about the scratchers, I think about how the lottery is part of that system of kind of selling hope to a vast majority of us.
Thank you. I have it makes me think a lot about the cost of poverty, and how expensive it is to be poor. But thank you for that. It's just very provocative and thought-provoking. Sorry, I totally got off my questions. Let's see. So can you speak to us? I know you said this is a new body of work for you that you've been working on. But can you speak to us about how your practice, if it has changed over time?
Yeah, definitely. It's changed a lot. So I guess going back to really far past, when I began my interest in art through anime, Japanese cartoons, and just copying what I saw on TV. But then shortly thereafter, I started making my own drawings, and then I applied for schools, for undergrad, hoping to just try to make a living as an artist. And so I went to Williams College. I received my BA in studio art at Williams. And there, I primarily worked with drawing and painting. I did dabble in video, sculpture, installation as well, but I came out of that program having had a really strong drawing and painting portfolio. And I think it was when I was traveling in Asia. I was teaching abroad in specifically South Korea, Taiwan, and Micronesia, or the Federated States of Micronesia. I then discovered that my positionality as a Filipino American became much more pronounced because I was Asian American in Asia. So I kept asking myself, what does it mean to be Asian American in Asia? So when I came to MSU, the body of work that I was developing really reflected this deep investigation into what it means to be Asian American in Asia. And so I think I think it opened up a lot of doors for me, working with not only banana leaves and installation, thinking about space, but also video and sound. And I'm really excited to see where this body of work will take me.
And kind of speaking of video and sound, we do have a video installation here with headset, so I encourage everyone, once the artist talk wraps up, to please take the time to just explore and experience this work that Nicolei has made. Nicolei, could you talk a little bit about this work specifically so our audience can maybe have an understanding of what they'll experience?
Great, yes, of course. So this piece here is a video work that I did in a residency in Colorado. It's titled Typhoon Survivors. And it was just this past August, I was in a residency called Elsewhere Studios in Paonia, a small town in Colorado. But essentially, during that time, I was thinking about an experience I had in 2013 where I was interning in the Philippines, and a super typhoon called Haiyan, but locally in the Philippines called Yolanda, had hit the Philippines that year. And even today, Filipinos think about Typhoon Yolanda as really impactful and kind of is something that affects their mental state, our mental state even to this day. So I wanted to create a piece that was in reference to Typhoon Yolanda by interviewing people in the Philippines while I was in Colorado. And so I reached out to a number of people through a freelance website. I said, I'm really interested in getting in touch with Filipinos who were impacted by Typhoon Yolanda. And I had a huge group of people come up to me and say that they are really interested in sharing their stories. Some of them even told me that they had never shared their story to anyone, not even to their family members. And so I would interview with them for about 2 hours each, and then from there I collaged together their stories. I omitted their image, but I gathered their voice, and then I translated their answers from Tagalog into handwritten English, which is what the captions are what you can see as captions in the video.
Thank you. I was just thinking about the labor that it took for you, like both physically and emotionally, to work with these folks and then give a voice to maybe some people who didn't have a voice to be able to create this work. That's incredible. Would you like to share how you're expanding upon this work?
Oh yeah, of course. I mentioned to Katrina, which I can mention to all of you too, that I will be pursuing a Fulbright next year, so this coming year in September, where I will be drawing from this research that I had already been doing on Typhoon Yolanda by being situated in the Philippines starting this September and talking to people locally while I'm there, and also working with a university that specializes in environmental sciences, where I will be gathering qualitative and quantitative data on Typhoon Yolanda, and then hopefully creating a body of work that I can showcase both in the Philippines and in the U.S.
I keep telling Nicolei that she has like the world's best answer to what are you doing now that you graduated? Like that she's going to be a Fulbright scholar. So I just wanted to give anybody who maybe wanted to ask a question to Nicolei the opportunity. Of course, she'll be here for the duration of the reception if you wanted to speak with her one-on-one, but if anyone had anything that they wanted to know a little bit more about, you're welcome to ask. George?
Related questions. In the painting, what's the sequence of what goes down first, and then is it pre-planned, or does it just kind of evolve as you work on it?
Yeah, such a great question. Yeah, thank you, George. I would say that it's for the most part intuitive. But I can give you a kind of rough idea of what I did. So typically I had a blank canvas. I started with a blank canvas, but then I built a ground, so through gesso and then also an acrylic wash. So here it would be the green, and here would be the pink. But from there, I then began layering the image transfer. So basically, if you're not familiar with image transfer, it's a very simple process of just printing from your regular printer, and then using an acrylic medium to adhere that printed image onto the canvas, and then once it's dry, you can remove the fibers, the paper fibers, which then will reveal the ink that is stuck onto the surface of the painting. And so that's why most, if not all, of the images are reverse because of that printing process of image transfer. And then my last, for the most part, the last layer is either I use a screen for screen printing, where I would put ink or paint, and then just use a squeegee to push paint through. You can see that mostly in the green painting here. And then lastly, I use adhesive to then adhere the silver leaf onto the surface. The silver leaf comes in little squares, like I think 6 by 6 inch squares. And then if I liked it, then it was done. If I didn't like it, then I just keep working on it.
How long does it take
to do on painting?
one of those paintings?
That's a really great question.
I don't know if you keep track, but
I don't. I'm not good at keeping track of time. But I think probably just I don't know, maybe a month. But really a lot of it's like standing back and just looking at it. Lots of looking and standing.
Did anyone else have any questions? All right, so I would like to invite Michelle Carlson back up for just another few more minutes.
We're really excited to have this inaugural award. It's called the Elizabeth Charles Award. And it was started by Norm Charles. He's a big supporter of our gallery, and it's in the name of his daughter, who passed away very young. And she really believed in humanity and always fought for equity and everyone's rights in her young life. She was a crusader. And so in her memory, he started a fund, and he wanted to start this award for us. So we would like to award this to Nicolei because her work, as you can see, exemplifies this understanding of our humanity, and it's championing human equity and diversity. She brings to it, and having this work of hers, and from her point of view, adds to all our humanity and our understanding of the greater world, which makes us all better people. And this is the power of the arts and what we as a gallery stand for and are continually working toward a better understanding. So thank you for sharing your lessons in your life with us. It's very precious to me, I think, and we'd like to award you with the Elizabeth Charles Award. Thank you so much. You're welcome.
Thank you.
On a side note, it is a monetary award, no restrictions. It's mostly to help artists pursue their art and to continue to tell the stories that are so important to all of us. So, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you, Nicolei. So please, you're welcome to get up and take a closer look at the work and chat with Nicolei. Oh, thank you. And I also wanted to just take a moment to support or to thank our sponsor, who's one of our board members, Becky Tenbrink. Unfortunately, she was not able to be here tonight, but she promises to come visit as soon as she can. But she wanted to, support this exhibition through her sponsorship. So thank you to Becky Tenbrink for that. And please, you're welcome to get up and meet Nicolei and see the work. Enjoy the video, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.